I just want to talk about the whole experience with wrestling with God, and one of the reasons I want to do that is because to help me make sense of my own thoughts, I suppose, but also just when I talk to people about this, people who are Christians or Muslim or whatever, they're just generally the most kindest, welcoming, encouraging people, and I figure, you know what, maybe some of you will. I don't even know what I'm looking for, to be honest. However, here we go. So I grew up as an atheist, right? My dad. And this was not a big thing. Like, I mean, it just, my dad had said a few times, uh, logic trumps faith, and, religion is a salve for the weak minded, who can't handle their own stuff. And basically, like, religion has been and the church has been a cause of a lot of the world's problems or whatever. And so, which is objectively true. It has been definitely a cause of some significant problems and oppression and violence. But it wasn't something that was talked about a lot. I mean, it was just those were just some things that he had mentioned in passing. And for me as a kid, I mean, a young person, I just internalized that. I really didn't give it any thought or any critical thinking, and so that made sense to me. So yeah, God's fake, and religious people are weird, and that was literally about the e extent of it. And when I say weird, I don't mean like I had people in my life, good friends that were people of faith, and I don't mean weird that way. Like, that was worse than what I meant. I just meant like they had a set of beliefs that I found weird, and I just absolutely could not relate to. And I was very sure of that because, as most young people are, I think we have a lot of unwarranted certainty about a lot of things. And as we get older, I think for many of us, certainly for myself, so the journey of uh, getting older has been one of consistently understanding how little I actually know about anything. I mean, I think that's one of the gifts that comes from growth and increasing our knowledge is that we also develop a better sense, a much more refined sense, let's say, of uh, like literally how little we actually know about anything. And so from that perspective, probably around when I was 40, I would say. So when my wife died in 2010, total atheist, and she's fucking dead, and she's buried in the ground. That's it. And I've written about this. I actually told my daughter that too, which I really regret. I don't have many regrets, but that is one thing I really regret. She was like 7, and she asked me, "Is mommy really in heaven?" And I said, "No, she's buried in the ground." And I can't take it back, like, obviously, and now my daughter is dead too, but so after my wife died, that was the way I looked at things. And then, again, as I got older and I healed from my wife's death and sobered up, and then I became and again, becoming more and more aware of all the things I don't know, I just became agnostic. Like, I thought to myself, Nobody knows why we're here." I mean, okay, you can say, well, yeah, like the Big Bang, but I mean, come on, like, what happened before the Big Bang? Why does anything exist? Nobody knows. And also, nobody understands in any way how life began. Like, anyone from from a scientific perspective does not understand how life began. And then the more that we learn about the complexity of the cell and like just everything about humanity, the further we actually get from understanding how it is even possible that life began. Like, literally nobody has any idea. And I find that very interesting. Like, how, because when you think about all the things that would have had to happen to end up from, you know, primordial sludge to here, it's even to get from primordial sludge to a single cell is basically almost impossible. So, anyways, be that as it may. So, yeah. So nobody knows why we're here. Nobody knows how life began. So then I just realized, yeah, I don't really know. And but I still had a lot of resistance to, like, the idea of Christian, like, religion, like faith with Christianity, and I had lots of Christian friends by this point, actually, and I talked to them quite a bit. And I couldn't buy into it. I don't know. And felt like too dogmatic. And so I told myself that I did believe in some kind of higher power, but it felt it feels too vague. Like it just feels too like it's not something I can, attach to or resonate with. But that's kind of what happened. And so then my daughter died, almost 3 years ago, and I was definitely still agnostic then. But what I found with my daughter is I just so desperately wanted to believe she was okay. Like, and I really found myself wanting to believe in something more concrete. But I still couldn't bring myself to do it. And I had some really powerful psychedelic experiences, that really opened my eyes to just how much of our experience, how tiny a sliver of our experience that we experience on a day to day basis, and like all that's out there that's possible. And so my point is that opened my mind. Also, after Chloe's death, I had some incredibly powerful, inexplicable experiences, that my current worldview like could not make any sense of. So, and I'm not going to tell the whole story now. Maybe I'll make a video. I think I've written about it actually, but it was just some signs that were like the idea of these being a coincidence. It's impossible, and I am a skeptic, man. But absolutely impossible. So but what I found is over the past 3 years, I'm fucking tired, man. I'm tired of grieving. I'm tired of fighting, fighting addiction. Like I have addiction like well in hand, but it's always there. Like I always worry I could start smoking pot again at any time because like the grief is can be very painful. And again, I have it all well in hand, but I just want to be free from it forever, and and I think I'm also sick and tired of being my highest authority, like for everything stopping with me. Like, and the idea of just giving it to God is so, it's like, I don't know, I picture almost like just somebody who's tired who takes a knee and just gives it to God, and so the problem is, that's not a problem. I guess my current state's, I don't actually like fully believe in God, right? So what I'm doing is I started going to church, like a non-denominational Christian church. It's only gone a couple times, but it's just like a really nice way to spend time. It's just really good welcoming people. And the idea that there's this building that a complete stranger can just walk into in our community and be welcomed. I mean, that's beautiful, right? And I also just think that regardless of my level of belief, I totally believe that Jesus was a real person. I think that's pretty objectively, are fairly universally accepted that he was a real dude who lived and died, and for whatever reason, he spurred this movement that changed the face of the world. And so, I have some very religious friends or friends who are very strong in their faith, let's say. So I joined a Bible study with them, and my thought process is, even if I don't fully believe at the moment, I just think that being more intentional about studying the teachings of Jesus can only be a positive thing in my life because they are amazing. And fundamentally, they're the values on which you know, Western society is founded. So, I mean, I just think that the teachings are so good and so useful that I think incorporating them into my life will only help. And so I've been doing that every morning. I'm very tentative here. Like I'm like a total newbie here. So, and these guys, I said to these guys, like I don't even know where I'm at right now, but they welcomed me. They're just so freaking supportive, just such good people. And I think the last thing is that I'll say, and then I got to run. But and I was telling the guys this morning is I think that the one of the biggest impediments or like points of resistance for me to really embrace this whole thing is the idea that my daughter might be in hell. She died. Yeah, it's really hard for me to say that actually. She was 19 years old. Her soul was just destroyed by her mother's suicide, my wife's suicide. And by the end of her life, she was just her mental health issues had taken over her existence. Just exactly like her mother. It was like a horror movie version of Groundhog Day. And so she died drinking and driving drunk and driving stoned. She killed herself. She got into a horrific head on collision. She killed herself and she almost killed four other people. And I just think that she never accepted Jesus in her life. It wasn't even like we never even really talked about it. It was like, why wouldn't she? And I just think she died in this horrible way, causing so much harm to so many people. And how could she not be in hell? I think that about my wife too, actually. Like she killed herself, and I look at both of them and I just think that how unbelievably and totally mental health issues had taken over their lives. And one had, I think, I don't know, I don't know how to actually think about it, but I worry about that. I do worry about the fact that they are in hell. And like, and it's somehow accepting Jesus or there's a God or whatever, like, means that I have to accept that as true. I don't know. I don't even know if this makes any sense, but literally, I'm just just kind of recently, I've realized that this is probably some kind of point. Um, yeah, I don't know. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. I just saw something Megan posted. I mean, how would it be that mistakes mean a total? Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I don't know what the difference between a mistake is and like an act, like a deliberate act. I mean, you know, I'm not sure about any of it, but it's just something I worry about, and I don't know what the answer is. I don't know anything, but yeah, that's where I'm at. So I wanted to share that with you. I appreciate you listening, Megan. Megan, appreciate your comments. I'll go read them in a second in more detail, but I want to share that with everybody. And for those of you who are here, thanks for listening and thank you for the support. And any words of wisdom, advice, or guidance would be more than welcome. All right. Thanks, friends.